This week, we'll talk about the legacy of the late Senator John McCain, as well as get into the property battle surrounding Boise State's new baseball stadium.
And next, Idaho officials are considering prison expansions. And you can look forward to a new tailgate zone that is set to open this year. Later on, we're going to hear from our friend Cole Young with your Bronco Sports Update.
These stories and more are coming up next on your Boise State Newsline for the week of August 29th, 2018. Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of Newsline. I'm Ben Kaiser.
And I'm Doug Mason.
Boise State University has been granted eminent domain in regards to property rights they need to build their new baseball stadium. On August 16th, the Idaho State Board of Education granted use as an agreement between Boise State University and local property owners have yet to be reached. Eminent domain will allow Boise State to pursue the land with compensation should parties be unable to reach an agreement. The Idaho Freedom Foundation, or IFF, was openly critical of the announcement. IFF policy researchers Phil Honschild says seizing private property for a new stadium would be a flagrant abuse of power and attack on property rights in Idaho. Greg Hahn, Associate Vice President for Communications and Marketing at Boise State, says just because the State Board of Education has granted eminent domain does not mean that that is how they will pursue purchasing this property. According to documents obtained from the State Board of Education, the university has still tentatively agreed to purchase the land at 1104 to 1108 South Grant. This section of land chosen for the stadium contains one 8-unit apartment complex, one 4-unit apartment complex, and a parking lot, none of which the university currently owns. According to the Associated Press, the entire stadium is projected to cost anywhere between $8 and $10 million. Now, as negotiations are far from over, we're going to continue to update as the story progresses.
Sounds good, Ben. All right, well, on June 11th, Idaho officials announced that they are considering spending $500 million on a prison expansion. This includes a new state prison to help alleviate the state's overcrowded prisons, as reported by Marianne Fernandez. Corrections officials told the State Board of Correction that the expansion is desperately needed. Idaho prisons and above the capacity, and a majority of the incoming inmates are transferred to a private prison. In the past, when Idaho prisons were full, they would transfer the inmates to an out-of-state private prison, typically in Texas. State Corrections Director Henry Atencio explained that the state has to pay the private prison per inmate. Atencio also said that currently there are 400 Idaho inmates in a privately owned prison in Texas, and more are expected to be transferred. According to Atencio, the $500 million project is needed for a prison expansion and would also fund 4 different facilities. Atencio added that with the ever-growing population of Idaho, the prison population is increasing as well.
I'm glad to see that we're taking some ownership and trying to fix the problem.
Me too. We definitely need it here in Idaho.
Yeah, we do. John McCain, Republican senator and congressman, two-time presidential candidate and father, passed away this last weekend at his home in Arizona. According to a statement produced by his office, he passed away at 4:23 p.m. of a malignant glioblastoma located in the brain. McCain, most famous for his 2008 bid for presidency, had served in the public light for more than 3 decades. During his time in the Senate, he served as Senate Chairman of the Armed Forces Committee, Senate Chairman of the Indian Affairs Committee, and Chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, becoming one of the most popular and well-known faces of the State House in Washington. Over the course of his career, McCain had faced a fair amount of controversy for decisions made while in office, selecting Governor Palin as his running mate in 2008, being a proponent in defunding Planned Parenthood, and using choice language to describe his own wife and Chelsea Clinton, to name a few. In the months leading up to and during the 2016 presidential election, he went against many fellow party members and warned against the rhetoric of Donald Trump. So this begs the question, John McCain, one of the most influential conservative minds in the last half-century, what is the legacy that he will leave? He received criticism from Trump saying, quote, "He's not a war hero. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people who weren't captured," end quote. And the praise from former President Bush saying that, quote, "a man of deep conviction and a patriot of the highest order," end quote. But what do the Boise State students have to say? To comment on the legacy, I reached out to Boise State student Jackson Blackwell, who actually served for McCain for 5 months on the Senate floor. I asked him on his thoughts on the legacy of John McCain, and he said the following, quote, "Senator McCain was a patriot who served his country for decades. He was considered by all, regardless of political affiliation, to be a man of the utmost integrity. Although people had policy differences with him, they must not forget the sacrifices he made for our country, the changes he helped craft for generations to come," end quote. It's tough to tell how the aftermath of his death will play out, and we should not. All we can do is mourn and be thankful, look to the future, and hope that the people who will fill his role will serve the country with the dedication that he did.
It's a big bummer. You know, he was a big part of the Republican Party.
This is going to be felt in the State House for a long time.
Most definitely.
Now, campus housing is leading many students off campus. Let's hear from our colleague at the Arbiter, Jimena Bastillo, about the issues arising with the nearby off-campus apartments.
Thank you, Ben. An apartment complex near Boise State bills itself as student housing, but one student claims that it's anything but. River Edge, on Royal Boulevard, advertises a $550 Visa gift card for students who sign a lease. But a Boise State student was surprised to find out that the complex expected him to pay back that money once his lease expired. The student now tells the Arbiter that River Edge is sending the matter to a collection agency, which led him to pursue legal action of his own. The Arbiter contacted River Edge and confirmed that the complex rents rooms to anyone over 18, regardless of student status, and gave a $550 lease incentive in previous years. Boise State apparently can't be much help. According to Tom Beita, the director of university sponsorships, Boise State doesn't currently consider any off-campus apartment complexes as campus partners. He says that while the school is looking to develop such partnerships, right now, vetting off-campus housing is completely up to students themselves. Back to you.
Thanks, Jimena. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, Ben, but I kind of hope that they figure that out.
And I was someone who went through something very similar, so I definitely sympathize.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. All right, well, it looks like we're going to turn it to a little bit more of a fun side of the news. Boise State has announced a new Ford tailgate zone opening this year at Deschereaux Field, as reported by Autumn Robertson. The idea of the tailgate area is to boost the fans' ultimate experience on game day. 4 years ago, Boise State attempted to start a new tailgate zone inside the Caven Williams Sports Complex. It ended up not really lasting due to staffing and funding issues. With Ford sponsoring, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Matt Thomas, Assistant Athletic Director and Marketing and Promotions, says college football has changed. It's no longer just a game. Instead, it's an entire game day experience. This is a huge reason why Boise State has partnered with Block Party, a tailgate company. Block Party takes reservations no matter what size the tailgate. Thomas says they'll set up your tailgate for you. You drive your car to the field, they have a bellhop service, they grab your tailgate items and bring it to your area. You can park your car, come back, and it's there. Boise State offers a limited amount of free tailgating opportunities or places for the general fans to tailgate. In the past, they've had the Hall of Fame Plaza opened up with marketing tables and broadcasts of pregame. Now, in addition to this, the east side of the Ford tailgate zone is open to the general fans. The west side of the field is dedicated to the more private tailgates thrown by Block Party.
I'm definitely going to be in attendance. I don't know about you, Doug.
You already know, Ben. I'm going to be there.
Well, speaking of tailgates, we're going to send it over to our Bronco sports correspondent, Cole Young. Cole, how are we doing?
Oh, we're doing great. After a long, painful wait, college football has returned. The wait is finally over, football fans. 7 months of waiting since the last time we saw the blue and orange take the field for a game against someone other than themselves. Of course, it was a resounding win over the Oregon Ducks. However, this time around, your Boise State Broncos will be without two key pieces off of last year's Mountain West Championship team. Linebacker Leighton Vander Esch and wide receiver Cedric Wilson were both drafted in this past spring's NFL draft and have left significant holes on both the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. However, due to the defense returning 10 of 11 starters, including key players such as safety Kekoa Nawahine, cornerbacks DeAndre Pierce and Tyler Horton, who is also one of the 3 team captains, plus edge rusher Jabril Frazier, that hole does not seem as large. But the question on everybody's minds is who will replace Vander Esch? Through spring ball and fall camp, sophomore Riley Wimpy will be at the will linebacker spot come this Saturday for the Broncos season opener on the road at Troy. The sophomore Wimpy beat out fellow sophomore Bruno DeRose and grad transfer Tony Lashley to earn the starting spot outright come Saturday. For the offense, however, not all is sunshine and roses when it comes to replacing all Mountain West first-team wideout Cedric Wilson. Coming into fall camp, the 3 receivers that returned off of last year's team, A.J. Richardson, Octavius Evans, and Sean Modster, combined to score the same amount of touchdowns as Wilson did all of last year with 7 touchdowns. The trio also combined for 5 less receptions last year than Wilson. Through fall camp, the trio has, however, made strides with senior quarterback Brett Rippon to develop more chemistry and the trust of knowing Rippon could count on them as viable targets in the passing game. The Broncos also returned leading rusher and Mountain West honorable mention running back Alexander Madison. The junior tallied 1,086 yards on 212 carries to go along with 12 touchdowns. He will undoubtedly be the workhorse back and the safety net early on in the season if the passing game struggles to get going. The junior tailback is also an asset in the passing game. 2017 saw Madison tally 28 receptions for 284 yards and 1 score. For Rippon himself, the 3-time captain will lead Boise State for the 4th consecutive year. The senior is coming off an up-and-down season that not only saw him split time with grad transfer Montel Cozart, but also earned first-team All-Mountain West honors. Rippon can take some comfort in knowing that 4 of his 5 starting linemen will also be returning. As mentioned previously, Boise State starts 2018 on the road at fellow Group of 5 powerhouse Troy. The Broncos defeated Troy 24-13 last year on the Blue and have high expectations to repeat that success in 2018. You can catch the opener Saturday, September 1st at 4 p.m. Mountain Time on ESPN News. And lastly, we here at Bronco Sports Hub wanted to say congratulations to senior kicker Hayden Hogarth, who was surprised with a scholarship at this past Saturday's Open Practice and Fan Fest at Albertson Stadium. Hogarth figures to be the starting kicker in 2018. Congrats, Hayden. It is much deserved. Thank you, guys. Back to you.
No, thank you, Cole. Now we're going to send it over to our buddy Joey Oles with your weekly weather. What do we got, Joey?
Thank you, guys. I don't know about you, but school has me stressed. But the thing getting me through this is the wonderful week of weather we have coming up. Thursday, you're going to see a high of 84 and a low of 55. Friday is going to be the only day I think it's going to cool off a little bit with a high of 79 and a low of 51. But we are coming right back in it with Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Going to be an average high of 83 and a low of 54. Just going to round it out with Tuesday, a high of 84 and a low of 55, and Wednesday, almost the same, high of 83, low of 54. That's it for your weekly weather update. I am Joey Oles, and remember, you got to take the time to see the sunshine. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Joey. I'm for sure going to remember. That's going to do it from all of us here at your Boise State Newsline. I'm Ben Kaiser.
And I'm Doug Mason. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.